Captain Elias Hart sat in the command chair of the human exploratory ship Odyssey, staring at the vast black of space stretching endlessly before him. Stars sparkled like tiny diamonds, distant and cold, and the silence around them was absolute. Yet in that quiet, a strange tension gripped him. Today, he was not just another explorer. Today, humans were about to meet an alien civilization unlike anything the galaxy had ever known. The Odyssey had been traveling for months through uncharted space, following signals that hinted at intelligent life. Finally, they arrived at the coordinates, the heart of the Kylar system. The Kylar, a race whispered about in scattered reports, were rumored to be older than most civilizations, far more advanced, and possessing abilities that defied human understanding. "Captain Hart, we are approaching the Kylar Palace," said Lieutenant Mira Singh, the ship's communications officer. Her voice held a mix of awe and apprehension. Sensors detect no weapons, but the energy reading, "It's unlike anything we have ever seen." Hart nodded, gripping the armrests of his chair. He had expected alien civilizations before, but this felt different. The Kylar were not only unknown, they were unpredictable. The palace floated in orbit above the planet's surface, a structure of shimmering crystal and metal that twisted and curved in ways that made human eyes strain to comprehend. It seemed alive, pulsating with light and energy. As the Odyssey moved closer, Hart felt an odd sensation, like the ship itself was being measured, evaluated. "Docking bay is open, Captain," Singh said. "They are ready for us." Hart took a deep breath and activated the ship's landing sequence. As the Odyssey gently descended, he reviewed the protocols for first contact. Diplomatic gestures, universal signals, and respect for their customs, all crucial. Yet nothing could have prepared him for what came next. The ship landed and the airlock opened. Hart stepped onto the gleaming floor of the palace. The room stretched wider than any hall he had ever seen, with walls that reflected soft, shifting colors. His crew followed him, cautious but eager. The Kylar themselves were unlike anything Hart had expected. Tall, graceful, with skin that shimmered subtly under the palace lights. Their faces were elegant, almost otherworldly, with eyes that seemed to see not just the physical, but the emotional and mental state of anyone who entered. They moved silently, guiding the humans through the hallways toward the throne room. Hart tried to memorize every detail, every shimmer of light, every strange symbol that adorned the walls. The palace seemed alive, as if it knew they were there and was adjusting itself to their presence. Finally, they reached the throne room. It was massive, circular, with a domed ceiling that seemed to open into the stars themselves. At the center sat the alien queen. She was taller than the tallest Kylar Hart had seen, radiating an aura of calm authority. Her skin shimmered like liquid metal, changing colors in patterns that seemed almost musical. Her eyes, deep and piercing, fixed on him. Hart stepped forward, expecting words or gestures, but none came. And then the impossible happened. The queen, without hesitation, knelt before him. Her head bowed, her body bending with such reverence that it was impossible for Hart to misinterpret the gesture. The room went silent. The other Kylar froze. Hart felt a chill run down his spine. Why was she kneeling? Was it fear, respect, or something else entirely? "Stand firm, Captain," Singh whispered. Hart swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. He had studied countless alien customs, but nothing prepared him for this. The kneeling was so complete, so deliberate, that it seemed personal. Hart stepped closer, his voice steady despite the shock. I am Captain Elias Hart, representing the humans of Earth." The queen did not speak in words. Instead, a strange vibration filled the room. Hart felt it in his chest, like a low hum that resonated with his very being. He could not understand the language, yet the meaning was somehow clear. It was recognition, acknowledgement, and something else. An unspoken connection that left Hart both fascinated and unnerved. Singh spoke quietly into the comm, her voice tense. "Sensors are picking up a psychic resonance, Captain. It's like she is reading your thoughts or perhaps sensing your potential." Hart frowned. "Potential for what?" he muttered under his breath. The queen slowly rose, her movement graceful and deliberate. She extended her hand, and though it seemed like an invitation, it was more than that. It was an offering of trust. Hart hesitated, then took it. The moment their hands touched, a flood of images and emotions surged into his mind. He saw the history of the Kylar, their triumphs, their failures, and their fears. He saw visions of humans not just as they were now, but as they could be. Bold, resilient, creative, and unpredictable. Hart staggered back slightly, overwhelmed. The Queen's eyes held his, and he realized that the kneeling had not been a gesture of subjugation. It was a gesture of honor, of respect, of recognition. Humans, despite their small numbers and limited technology, possessed qualities that the Kylar had long forgotten. Why are you kneeling?" Hart finally asked, his voice barely more than a whisper. The Queen did not answer with words. Instead, she placed a small crystal in his hand. It pulsed with light, warm and steady, and Hart felt a strange sense of purpose emanating from it. It was as if the crystal itself carried a message. Humans are important. Humans matter. Hart glanced at his crew, who were staring in awe. She honors us," Singh said softly. "In their culture, kneeling like that is unimaginable for anyone outside their most respected allies." The Queen nodded slightly as if confirming Singh's words. Hart looked back at her, trying to find understanding in her shifting, radiant features. He did not fully comprehend why, but he felt a sense of destiny stirring within him. Humans were about to change the course of history, not through power, but through qualities that no alien could replicate: courage, ingenuity, and the unpredictable spark of the human spirit. As the Queen rose fully to her feet, Hart felt a mixture of awe and fear. This meeting was more than diplomacy. It was a turning point. Humans were no longer just visitors in the galaxy. They were recognized. They were respected, and they were, in a way, chosen. "Take us to your council," Hart said, his voice steadier now. "We have much to discuss." The Queen inclined her head, signaling the humans to follow. As they walked through the palace halls, Hart could not shake the feeling that every step they took was part of a larger design, one that humans had only just begun to understand. The crystal in his hand pulsed gently with each step, a reminder of the connection forged in that silent, powerful moment. The kneeling had been more than a gesture, it was a declaration. Humans, fragile and flawed though they were, possessed something the galaxy had never fully appreciated, and for the first time Hart understood that their presence here was no accident. As the palace doors opened into the council chamber, Hart felt the weight of expectation, not just from the Kylar, but from every human who had ever looked up at the stars and wondered what lay beyond. Today they would take their first true step among the stars, not as visitors but as beings worthy of recognition. And in that moment, as the Queen's eyes met his once more, Hart realized that the galaxy had changed forever, and that humanity's story was only just beginning. Captain Elias Hart stepped into the council chamber, the crystal still warm in his hand. The room was vast and circular, with a floor that seemed to float above an endless abyss of shimmering energy. Kylar council members filled the seats arranged around the chamber, each figure radiating calm authority. Hart felt their eyes on him, studying him in a way that made him feel both small and strangely significant. The Queen remained at the center, her presence commanding yet strangely reassuring. She gestured toward Hart, and the council fell silent. For a moment, the only sound was the soft hum of the palace, a vibration that seemed almost alive. Hart cleared his throat. I am honored to be here," he said. "We come in peace, seeking understanding and friendship." The Queen's voice echoed in his mind before it reached his ears. The Kylar communicated not only through speech but also through a shared consciousness, transmitting ideas directly into the minds of others. Hart had experienced the sensation briefly when she had knelt, but now it was more deliberate, more focused. "Humans," the Queen's thought voice said, calm and melodic. "Your presence here is unusual but necessary. You are different from all others we have known." Hart swallowed hard, trying to process her words. "Different? How?" he asked aloud. "You possess unpredictability, courage, and imagination," the Queen replied. "Traits we have observed, though rarely acknowledged. Traits that may influence the future of not only your species but many in this galaxy." The council members shifted, some exchanging glances. A few appeared skeptical, whispering to one another in their own language. Hart sensed the tension. Not all Kylar were ready to trust humans. Some feared what humans could do if left unchecked, while others admired them quietly. Lieutenant Meera Singh leaned toward Hart. "Captain, sensors are detecting almost a psychic resonance. It's as if they are evaluating our minds, our intentions." Hart nodded. "Then we must show them who we are, not just our technology." He straightened his shoulders, trying to project confidence. "We may be new to the stars, but humanity has qualities that cannot be measured by machines alone. The Queen's eyes, deep pools of shifting color, fixed on him. You have not yet realized your full potential, Captain Hart. That is why I knelt before you. Humans are respected, though not fully understood. My actions were not fear nor submission. They were recognition. Hart felt a mix of awe and confusion. Recognition? From the most powerful being he had ever met? He glanced at the other council members, some still suspicious, some clearly impressed. You are aware of our history, the Queen continued, but you do not know the full truth. Our civilization has long observed others, learning from them, guiding them sometimes, intervening. Yet humans have done something unexpected. You have reached us not through power, but through determination, creativity, and moral courage. These are rare in the galaxy. Hart swallowed. He had always believed in human potential, but hearing it validated by an alien queen left him speechless. One of the council members, a tall figure with shimmering blue skin, spoke aloud, though Hart could also feel the words in his mind. Your species is young and untested. What makes you think you can offer anything of value to us? Hart squared his shoulders. We may be young, but our strength lies in our ability to adapt, to think in ways others cannot, to take risks that others fear. That unpredictability, it is not weakness. It is opportunity. The chamber fell silent. Even the Queen paused, allowing Hart's words to settle. Perhaps, she finally replied, it is time for humans to understand the galaxy in ways others cannot. But first you must learn about us and we about you. Hart nodded. We are ready. Over the next hours, the Kylar Council shared knowledge of their civilization. Humans learned that the Kylar had existed for tens of thousands of years. Their culture built on logic, discipline, and psychic mastery. They had observed countless species rise and fall, yet most civilizations failed to survive because they lacked certain human qualities. We have long relied on technology and control, the Queen said, but we have forgotten the importance of courage, creativity, and moral choice. Humans possess these in abundance, though you yourselves may not realize it. Hart felt a deep respect growing for the Kylar. They were wise, cautious, and yet strangely limited by their adherence to logic and control. Humans, he realized, might offer something even they lacked, unpredictability guided by conscience. The kneeling, the Queen explained, is a gesture of honor. It is reserved for beings whose actions may change the course of civilizations. I kneeled not because of fear, nor because of your weapons, but because humans, your species, hold potential that may influence the galaxy in ways we cannot yet foresee. Hart's mind raced. Potential? Influence? Humans, the small species from a blue planet orbiting a modest star, were recognized as a force the galaxy could not ignore. He felt a surge of pride tempered by responsibility. Singh leaned closer. Captain, this is more than diplomacy. They see us differently than any other species. Hart nodded. Yes, and we must prove that we are worthy of that recognition. The Queen continued, guiding them through more revelations. The Kylar had knowledge of advanced energy systems, faster than light travel, and civilizations across hundreds of star systems. Yet they lacked the spontaneity and ingenuity that humans brought naturally. We have watched humans from afar, the Queen said. Through our probes and observers, we have seen your courage, your moral choices, your ability to solve problems that confound even the most advanced civilizations. That is why I knelt. That is why I honor you. Hart felt a strange mixture of fear and excitement. Humans had always imagined themselves as special, but now, facing a civilization far older and more powerful, they were being recognized in ways that no one on Earth could have imagined. There is a challenge, the Queen added, one that will test your abilities and the qualities for which you are honored. If you succeed, humans will earn a place among us, respected as equals and trusted as allies. Hart's curiosity sharpened. A challenge? He asked. Yes, the Queen replied. A problem that has resisted solution for centuries. It is not a test of strength or technology. It is a test of ingenuity, courage, and moral clarity. The outcome will reveal what humans can offer the galaxy. Hart felt the weight of her words. This was more than a mission. It was a chance to prove humanity's value in the eyes of a civilization that had seen countless species rise and fall. We will accept this challenge, Hart said firmly. We will show you the strength of humanity, not through force but through ingenuity, cooperation, and courage. The Queen's eyes glimmered. Then prepare yourselves. The trial begins soon. Your first step is to understand the nature of the problem. We will provide what you need, but the solution will come from you, not from our technology. As the humans were escorted to their quarters in the palace, Hart reflected on the events of the day. The kneeling, the recognition, the words of the Queen, it was overwhelming yet inspiring. Humans were not merely visitors in the galaxy. They were a species capable of remarkable things, capable of influencing civilizations far older and wiser than themselves. Singh broke the silence. Captain, do you realize what this means? The Queen, she respects us, not because of weapons or numbers or technology, but because of who we are. Hart nodded slowly. Yes, and we must live up to that respect. The galaxy will judge us not by what we have, but by what we can do, and by the choices we make. That night, as Hart lay in his quarters, he held the crystal the Queen had given him. It pulsed gently, a reminder of the recognition and responsibility now placed upon humanity. The hum of the palace echoed in his mind, a quiet yet persistent vibration, as if urging him to prepare, to think, to lead. Hart realized that the path ahead would not be easy. The challenge would test not only humans' intellect and courage, but also their morality, their ability to act with honor and integrity in the face of uncertainty. Yet he also knew something extraordinary. Humans had already begun to prove themselves, simply by existing, by showing qualities the galaxy had long overlooked. As he drifted into sleep, Hart felt a sense of purpose unlike any he had known. The kneeling had been the first sign of a bond, a recognition that humans were more than just a species. They were a force capable of shaping the future. And in that realization, Hart knew that humanity's story among the stars was just beginning. The following morning, Captain Elias Hart awoke with a sense of anticipation. The crystal the Queen had given him still pulsed softly on the bedside table, a steady reminder of the honor and responsibility placed upon humanity. Today, he would begin the first step of the challenge, a test designed to measure the qualities the Kylar valued most: ingenuity, courage, and moral judgment. The humans were led through the palace corridors to a chamber unlike any they had seen before. The walls shimmered with light and strange symbols floated in the air, shifting and rearranging themselves as if alive. In the center of the room was a platform surrounded by a translucent barrier, pulsing with energy. The Queen stood nearby, her eyes fixed on Hart. "This challenge," she said, her voice both audible and in his mind, "is not one of strength or speed. It is a problem that has defied solution for centuries. It requires insight, creativity, and the willingness to act where others hesitate." Hart looked around. His crew was tense but ready. Lieutenant Meera Singh stepped forward, her hands trembling slightly. "Captain, what exactly is the problem?" The Queen gestured, and a holographic projection appeared above the platform. It depicted a star system in chaos with planets destabilizing, energy readings fluctuating wildly, and vast storms sweeping across habitable worlds. "This system," the Queen said, "was once thriving, but it is now collapsing. Attempts by my people to stabilize it have failed. The solution requires thought and action outside of our traditional methods." Hart's brow furrowed. "You want us to fix an entire star system?" "Not with force," the Queen replied. "With insight. You must observe, understand, and then act. The solution will not come from what you see as tools, but from what you see as possibilities." The humans studied the hologram carefully. It was complex, but something about it sparked ideas that no Kylar had considered. Hart realized that the problem was not purely mechanical. It was adaptive, like a puzzle that responded to every action taken. "We need to gather data," Hart said. "Not just the readings from your sensors, but information about the environment, the energy flows, the interactions. Then we need to think differently," Singh nodded. "I see it, Captain. The way the energy shifts? It's almost like it responds to decisions, not commands. If we approach it logically, it fails. But if we try, unpredictably, maybe it will work." Hart smiled. "Exactly. Humans are unpredictable, and that's our strength here." Over the next hours, the crew worked tirelessly. They used every tool at their disposal, but also relied on observation, intuition, and creative thinking. Unlike the Kylar, who depended on precise calculation and rigid methods, humans experimented, failed, adjusted, and tried again. At first, The holographic system resisted every attempt. Energy flows spiraled into chaos. Planetary orbits destabilized and the crew's confidence wavered. But Hart reminded them, we are humans. We don't just follow patterns. We adapt, we create, and we persevere. Singh suggested an idea that made Hart pause. What if we don't try to force the system to stabilize? What if we create a path, a flow that guides it naturally? Hart's eyes lit up. Yes, we need to work with the system, not against it. Think like the storm itself, not like observers trying to control it. The crew reorganized their approach. They mapped the energy currents, traced the interactions between planets, and began to manipulate the system subtly, nudging it in ways that mimicked natural patterns. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the chaos began to calm. The Queen watched silently, her eyes focused and attentive. They are beginning to understand, she said to herself. They think in ways we cannot. This is why they are honored. Hours turned into a day and the humans persisted. Every failure became a lesson. Every small success was a building block. And then finally the impossible happened. The star system began to stabilize. Energy flows aligned. Planets settled into stable orbits and storms dissipated. Hart let out a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. We did it, he said softly. We actually did it. Singh smiled, exhaustion and relief mixing on her face. We worked with it, not against it. We found a way the Kylar hadn't considered. The Queen approached. You have succeeded where my people could not. Not because of tools or power, but because of the qualities humans possess. Creativity, courage, adaptability, and moral clarity. Hart felt a surge of pride, but also humility. He knew that this was not just a victory for himself or his crew. It was a victory for humanity. The Kylar had witnessed their abilities, and they were being recognized in a way no other species had ever experienced. Your methods are unorthodox, a council member said, still skeptical. Yet they are effective. How can you explain this? Hart smiled. We humans are not limited by tradition. We learn, adapt, and take risks. Sometimes the solution comes from seeing what others cannot, or from being willing to try what others will not. The council fell silent again, the weight of his words settling in. Even the skeptics could not deny the results. The humans had succeeded where the most advanced civilization in the galaxy had failed. The Queen nodded. You have proven yourselves. But this is only the first step. Your abilities have earned respect, but there is more to learn, more to understand, and more to achieve. The galaxy is vast, Captain Hart, and humans have only begun to show what they are capable of. Hart glanced at his crew. They were tired, but exhilarated. Every member had contributed, every idea mattered, and together they had accomplished what no one thought possible. It was a testament to human ingenuity, to their ability to face the unknown with courage and determination. Singh spoke quietly. Captain, do you realize what this means? We just solved a problem that their entire civilization struggled with for centuries. We've proven that humans are special. Hart nodded, holding the crystal from the Queen. It pulsed softly, almost as if echoing the life of the stabilized star system. Yes, and now the real work begins. We have shown our value, but we must continue to prove that we are worthy of the trust placed upon us. The Queen approached him, her expression unreadable but filled with meaning. You have begun to understand why I knelt before you, Captain. Humans are not just another species. You are a force shaped by unpredictability and moral choice, and these qualities are rare, even among the oldest civilizations. Hart felt a deep sense of responsibility. Humans were being recognized for qualities they often took for granted: courage, creativity, intuition, and moral judgment. These were not abilities that could be measured by sensors or statistics. They were the essence of what made humans human. Your challenge has been met, but the future will present others, the Queen said. You must continue to act with wisdom, courage, and integrity. The galaxy is watching, Captain Hart, and so are we. Hart felt the weight of her words, but also the inspiration they carried. Humans were no longer just observers in the galaxy. They had shown that they could influence outcomes, solve problems that even the most advanced civilizations could not, and act in ways that were uniquely their own. We will rise to every challenge, Hart said, his voice firm. Not just for ourselves, but for humanity. We will show the galaxy the value of our species, not through force, but through action, intelligence, and courage. The Queen nodded, a rare smile crossing her shimmering features. Then you are ready for the next step. But remember, Captain, every challenge will test not only your abilities but your choices. The galaxy is vast, and humans will be judged by the wisdom and courage you show in the face of uncertainty. As Hart and his crew returned to their quarters that night, the weight of what they had accomplished settled in. They had faced the unknown, applied human creativity in ways that no one else could, and succeeded where countless others had failed. Yet they knew this was only the beginning. The crystal in Hart's hand pulsed gently, a steady reminder of their connection to the Queen and the responsibilities they now carried. Humanity had been recognized, honored, and challenged. And in that recognition lay the beginning of something extraordinary, the knowledge that humans could make a difference, even among the stars. Hart lay down that night, staring at the ceiling of his quarters. The palace hummed quietly around him, a living, breathing structure that seemed to approve of their success. He realized that the kneeling, the challenge, and the recognition were all part of a larger journey, one that would test humans in ways they had never imagined. And yet, despite the uncertainty, Hart felt hope. Humans had proven that they could rise to the occasion, that their qualities, unpredictability, courage, creativity, and moral judgment, were more powerful than any weapon or technology. They were ready to face whatever came next, because humanity was not just surviving among the stars, they were beginning to thrive. The humans awoke to a new day in the Kylar Palace, one filled with anticipation and careful preparation. Captain Elias Hart knew that their recent success had not only proven their worth, but also placed them at the center of attention in ways they had not yet fully understood. The stabilization of the star system was a feat that no Kylar had achieved in centuries, and whispers of human ingenuity were spreading quickly through the palace. The Queen summoned Hart to the council chamber once more. The other council members were already present, their expressions a mix of curiosity, respect, and subtle skepticism. Hart felt the weight of expectation pressing down on him, but also a quiet confidence. Humans had shown their value, and now they were being invited to step further into the galaxy's political and cultural stage. Captain Hart, the Queen began, her voice calm yet commanding. Your actions have proven humanity's capabilities, but true recognition requires more than solving a single problem. Trust must be built, alliances must be formed, and choices must be made. Hart nodded. We understand. Humans are ready to learn, to work, and to prove themselves further. Then it is time, she said, to formalize your place among us. The humans were led to a grand hall, where representatives from dozens of Kylar sectors had gathered. The air hummed with energy, and the walls shimmered with light, reflecting the significance of the occasion. Hart felt a mixture of awe and nervousness. They were not just being honored. They were being integrated into the wider network of Kylar civilization, invited to participate in governance, diplomacy, and decision-making. The Queen addressed the assembly. These humans have demonstrated qualities that are rare, even among the oldest civilizations. They have solved a crisis that our people could not, using courage, creativity, and moral judgment. Today we recognize them not as visitors but as allies. A ripple of murmurs spread through the hall. Some council members nodded with approval, impressed by the humans' achievement. Others remained skeptical, wary of the unpredictability that humans represented. Hart sensed tension in the room. Some feared what humans might do if left unchecked, while others saw an opportunity for fresh insight and new ideas. The Queen raised her hand, and the murmurs ceased. By our tradition, the highest form of respect is given through ritual acknowledgement. Humans, you have already experienced this gesture when I knelt before you. Today it becomes official. You are recognized as equals, allies whose potential can shape the future. Hart felt the weight of the moment. It was more than a gesture. It was a declaration that humans, despite their small numbers and limited technology, could influence civilizations far older and more advanced. He bowed respectfully, mirroring the ritual as best he could. His crew followed, their expressions a mix of pride and disbelief. We are honored, Hart said aloud, his voice steady, and we accept this responsibility. Humanity will act with courage, wisdom, and integrity. We will honor the trust you have placed in us. The Queen nodded, a subtle glow passing over her shimmering form. Then let the alliance begin. As the ceremony concluded, Hart was approached by a council member whose expression was less welcoming than the others. This Kylar, tall and imposing with deep violet skin and eyes that glimmered like distant stars, spoke carefully. "Captain Hart," the counselor said, "humans have impressed us with their ingenuity. But you must understand that not all of my people share this view. Some see your unpredictability as a threat, a force that could destabilize what we have built over millennia." Hart nodded. "I understand. But unpredictability can also be a strength. Humans have solved problems no one else could. Not through control or power, but through creativity and moral choice. That is what makes us different. And I believe it is why you have chosen to ally with us." The counselor studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Perhaps you are right. But remember, Captain, recognition is not the same as acceptance. Some among us will test your abilities, your judgment, and your character. You must remain vigilant." Hart felt a chill, but also a sense of purpose. "We will. Humans are ready to face challenges, and to earn trust not just by words, but by actions." Over the next few days, the humans were introduced to the inner workings of Kylar society. They learned about governance, advanced technology, energy systems, and interstellar politics. Yet despite the wealth of knowledge, Hart noticed that the Kylar were constrained by tradition, bound by centuries of structured thinking. Humans, however, had already shown that they could approach problems differently, combining intuition, creativity, and moral judgment to achieve results that no Kylar method could. Singh observed quietly, her eyes scanning the council chambers. "Captain, notice how their systems are rigid. They value perfection and control, but they fear the unexpected. That is exactly where humans shine." Hart smiled. "Yes, and that's why we are here. To remind them that sometimes unpredictability guided by conscience can be more powerful than control." But not all was calm. As the humans became more involved, whispers of discontent began to circulate. Some council members feared that humans' influence might upset the balance of power, while others worried that the humans' bold methods could bring unintended consequences. One evening, while Hart and his crew were reviewing data in their quarters, an alarm sounded. The palace sensors had detected unauthorized energy fluctuations near the outer halls. "Captain, something is happening," Singh said, her voice tense. "Sensors show unusual activity. Could be sabotage." Hart's mind raced. "Prepare for investigation. We must act carefully. The alliance is fragile, and any mistake could undo everything we've achieved." They moved through the palace swiftly, guided by the Kylar security systems. Around a corner, they found a group of Kylar extremists attempting to tamper with the energy conduits that powered the palace. Their intent was clear: to discredit the humans, to show that unpredictability could bring disaster. Hart stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "Stop. You risk the lives of everyone here. Your actions are reckless." The extremists hesitated, surprised by his authority and composure. Hart continued, "If you want to challenge humans, do it with reason, with courage, with respect. Not through destruction or fear. That is not the way forward." Slowly, the extremists backed down, recognizing that Hart's confidence was not born of arrogance, but of competence. The humans and palace security stabilized the conduits, preventing disaster and demonstrating once again that human action, guided by intelligence and moral judgment, could succeed where rigid logic alone might fail. The Queen arrived shortly after, observing the scene. "Captain Hart, you have demonstrated not only ingenuity but moral courage. You acted decisively, yet without unnecessary harm. This is why humans are respected even among those who doubt them." Hart bowed slightly. "We act not for recognition, but because it is the right thing to do. That is how humans operate." The Queen's eyes shimmered. "Then the alliance is strengthened, not weakened. Trust grows not only through achievements but through choices made in moments of challenge." The humans returned to their quarters, weary but invigorated. They had faced opposition, proven their competence, and reinforced the trust that was forming between their species and the Kylar. Hart realized that the journey ahead would involve both diplomacy and action, both negotiation and decisive problem-solving. "Captain," Singh said, glancing at the palace ceiling, "we're being watched constantly. Every action matters now. The galaxy is noticing humanity, and we must live up to that expectation." Hart nodded, holding the crystal that had first connected him to the Queen. "We will. Humanity has a place among the stars, and we must show that our value lies not in technology or numbers, but in our choices, our courage, and our ingenuity." As night fell over the palace, Hart gazed out of the window at the stabilized star system they had saved. The planet spun in harmonious orbits. Energy flows glimmered steadily and storms had dissipated. It was a sight of balance and beauty, a testament to what humans could accomplish when they combined intellect, courage, and moral judgment. The Queen's words echoed in his mind. Humans are a force shaped by unpredictability and moral choice. Remember this, Captain Hart, for the galaxy is vast and your actions will be remembered. Hart smiled softly. We will not forget, and we will continue to rise to every challenge no matter how great. The humans had earned a place in the Kylar Alliance, yet Hart knew that this was only the beginning. Political tensions, hidden agendas, and new challenges awaited them. But they had proven that humanity's unique qualities, creativity, courage, and moral judgment were not only recognized but respected. For the first time, Hart felt that humans were not just survivors among the stars. They were beginning to thrive, shaping the galaxy in ways no one had anticipated, and as he turned back to his crew, he knew that together they could face whatever the universe would throw at them, because humans were more than just another species. They were a force capable of changing the course of civilizations. The days following the formal alliance were filled with preparation, discussion, and observation. Captain Elias Hart and his crew now held a position unlike any humans had ever known. They were not only honored guests, they were participants in the governance and future of a civilization far older and more advanced than their own. Every action they took, every decision they made, was watched closely by the Kylar Council and the Queen herself. Despite the pressure, Hart felt a sense of purpose stronger than ever. Humanity had been recognized for qualities no technology or weapon could measure: courage, creativity, intuition, and moral choice. These traits had earned them respect, but Hart knew that respect alone was not enough. They had to continue to prove their value not for glory, but for the trust placed in them by a species that had observed the galaxy for millennia. One morning, the Queen summoned Hart and his crew to the palace's observation deck. The room overlooked a nebula of brilliant colors, clouds of gas and light swirling in a cosmic dance. Hart felt a strange sense of calm as he approached. The Queen's presence was serene, yet her eyes, pools of shifting, radiant light, seemed to pierce into his very mind. "Captain Hart," she began, "the time has come to reveal the true reason I knelt before you. It is not simply because humans display courage or ingenuity. It is because your species carries a spark that has been absent in the galaxy for countless millennia." Hart listened intently, sensing that what she was about to say would change everything. "Long ago," the Queen continued, "my people explored the stars, guided by reason and discipline. We achieved knowledge, power, and stability. Yet something vital was lost. We forgot that unpredictability, guided by conscience and moral choice, is as crucial to survival as logic and strength. When I saw you, Captain Hart, I recognized that spark, an energy that could bring balance to civilizations, a quality the galaxy desperately needed." Hart's heart raced. The kneeling, the recognition, it was all part of a larger vision. Humans were not only being honored for what they had done, but for what they could do, for the potential embedded in their very nature. "You have demonstrated your worth through action," the Queen said, her voice echoing in his mind. "But the galaxy will continue to test you. You must be ready to face challenges that require not only intelligence but judgment, empathy, and courage. This is the gift and responsibility of being recognized." Hart nodded, absorbing the weight of her words. "We will rise to every challenge. Humanity will honor the trust you place in us, not through power but through action, ingenuity, and moral choice." The Queen inclined her head. "Then let the next chapter begin." Soon after, the humans were introduced to a new responsibility: mediating a dispute between two Kylar sectors over the control of vital energy resources. The conflict had persisted for decades, with neither side able to compromise. Hart realized that this was not a test of technology, but a test of diplomacy, intuition, and ethical reasoning. "Captain," Singh said as they reviewed the situation, "this could be our most important challenge yet. If we succeed, we solidify humanity's role as a trusted ally. If we fail, it could harm our standing." Hart studied the reports carefully. "We must approach this with fairness, understanding, and creativity. The Kylar rely on logic, but sometimes logic alone cannot solve disputes. We need to find solutions that respect both sides' needs while introducing new perspectives they may not have considered. Hart and his team arranged meetings with the sector leaders. They listened carefully, asking questions, seeking to understand motivations and concerns. Slowly, they began to identify common ground, suggesting solutions that combined Kylar knowledge with human ingenuity. At one point, a Kylar elder challenged Hart. "You are human. You cannot understand the subtleties of our politics. Your suggestions may disrupt centuries of balance." Hart met the elder's gaze firmly. "Perhaps, but humans see problems differently. We rely on creativity, empathy, and moral judgment. Sometimes the right choice is not the obvious one. Let us show you a way forward." Through patience, insight, and boldness, the humans guided the Kylar sectors to an agreement. Energy resources were shared fairly. Disputes were resolved, and the leaders began to trust human guidance. Hart realized that this success was more profound than stabilizing a star system. It demonstrated that humans could influence civilizations not with force, but with wisdom and courage. The Queen observed quietly, her eyes reflecting the satisfaction of someone who had foreseen this outcome. "They are learning, Captain. Humanity's influence is growing, and not through power, but through principles that endure across species and time." Hart felt pride for his crew, but also humility. They were making a difference not through domination, but through understanding, integrity, and creativity. Humanity was proving that the qualities that had carried them through history, adaptability, ingenuity, and moral courage, were not only valuable but vital in the galaxy. As the humans continued to work alongside the Kylar, news of their successes spread throughout the galaxy. Other civilizations observing from afar began to recognize that humans were unique. They were unpredictable, yes, but guided by conscience and courage. They had solved problems that others could not, and they had done so without weapons or overwhelming technology. Back in the palace, Hart reflected on the journey from the moment the Queen had knelt before him. That simple gesture, once confusing and overwhelming, now carried profound meaning. It was not submission nor fear. It was recognition of potential, of qualities that could shape the future of civilizations. "Captain Hart," the Queen said one evening, joining him on the observation deck, "you now understand why I knelt. Humans are not only capable of achieving great things, but of inspiring hope, guiding others and influencing the galaxy in ways no other species could. That is the essence of what makes you remarkable." Hart looked at the swirling nebula beyond the observation deck. "I understand now," he said softly. "Humans have the chance to shape the future, not through power, but through courage, creativity, and moral choice." The Queen smiled subtly, a shimmer of light passing over her skin. "Remember this, Captain. The galaxy will continue to test you, and other challenges will come. But humans have proven that they are not ordinary, and that ordinary measures will not define their impact." Weeks turned into months, and the humans continued to learn, teach, and act. They solved disputes, stabilized energy flows in distant systems, and advised on matters of diplomacy and ethics. With every success, humanity's reputation grew, and their presence became a source of inspiration to countless civilizations. Hart often reflected on how far they had come. From the moment the Queen had knelt, humanity's path had changed. They were no longer merely explorers. They were recognized as a force of influence, a species capable of shaping the galaxy in ways that could bring balance, hope, and progress. One day, as Hart walked through the palace gardens with Singh, he paused to look at the stars above. "Mira," he said, "do you realize what we've accomplished? Not just the challenges we've solved, but what this means for humanity. We're part of something greater than ourselves." Singh smiled. "Yes, Captain. We've been recognized not for what we have, but for who we are. That is something no one can take from us." Hart nodded, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. The Queen had knelt before him, and in that gesture, humanity had been given an extraordinary gift: acknowledgement of their potential, respect for their qualities, and a place among the stars. "The future is vast. Captain Hart," the Queen said as she approached, her voice calm and wise. "But humans now walk among us as equals, allies, and guides. Never forget the moment when recognition was given, and never forget the responsibilities it carries." Hart bowed, the weight of her words settling in. "We will not forget. Humanity will continue to rise, to act with courage, creativity, and integrity, and we will honor the trust placed in us by every action we take." The Queen inclined her head. Then the galaxy has reason to hope, and humans will continue to inspire, to guide, and to shape the future in ways that cannot be predicted, but are certain to be remarkable. Hart looked out at the stars once more, feeling the pulse of possibility in every twinkling light. Humanity had been recognized, honored, and challenged. They had proven that they could rise to every occasion, not through domination but through ingenuity, courage, and moral choice. And as the nebula swirled before him, Captain Hart knew that this was only the beginning. Humanity's story among the stars had reached a new era, a time of recognition, influence, and extraordinary potential. And with the Queen's acknowledgement, humanity had proven to the galaxy that they were not just another species. They were a force capable of changing the course of civilizations. Because sometimes, the smallest and most unpredictable species could leave the largest mark on the universe. And for humans, the journey had only just begun.